This is NET, the National Educational Television Network.
Since 1950s and 60s, NET, National Educational Television Network, has deemed so popular that it became the first public broadcasting station in the United States. And ever since then, they show educational programs on that channel till PBS took over in 1970. Of course, PBS also has its share of kids programming for educational purposes, such as Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street. And ever since then, more kids programming are available on your local PBS stations nationwide.
This is PBS. This is PBS.
This is PBS.
Here's the Season 3 finale of Agent Mike's to look at PBS Kids Memories.
PBS.
This is PBS.
Yeehaw! Hey, everybody! What's up? Welcome to the Season 3 finale of Agent Mike's movie TV show, Revewer. Oh, wow, looks like Season 3 is coming to a close after all the shows I reviewed, movies and TV shows alike. The first one is George Shrinks, and now I decided to compile and review some of my favorites that was shown on PBS back in the 1980s to mid-1990s. Of course, I'm not going to review all of them, but I'm going to review some of them that I picked. So this is PBS Kids Memories of the 1980s to the mid-1990s. That's right. The reason why I was here for the Season 3 finale is I decided to talk about and review a few of the PBS Kids shows that are my favorites, that I used to watch when I was a kid. And of course, that PBS is a very important channel that most of you know that has educational shows and some news programmings and even some space programmings like Stargazers and Jack Horkheimer's Star Hustler, Stargazer, whichever you can call it. And for those of you living in the USA watching it on your local PBS station years ago, it's totally awesome. So without any further ado, let's get started with PBS Kids Memories. The first one I'm going to be reviewing is everyone's favorite longtime daytime children's programming, Sesame Street. It started way back in 1969. Ah, yes. Sesame Street, television's longest-running children's show in history. It is a flagship show on PBS since 1969. And it was defined the word classic. It has a whole bunch of everyday life in Sesame Street by human characters, Jim Henson's Sesame Street Muppets, and so much more. The educational segments was just awesome. Since the time that I really love were animals and the typewriter guy shown here. He's kind of funny. And learning with numbers in different forms. And you know what I also like? The teeny little super guy. Oh, I remember him. He's one of the guy to help people's problems. At every between educational segments, there's some residents living in Sesame Street interacting with the Sesame Street Muppets like Telly, Elmo, Ernie, Bert, and so many others. I also like games, which is Cookie Monster is one of these things that's not like the others. And my favorite is I Heard a Dog Bark, where everyone imitates as animal sounds. And a whole bunch of animal sequences like What Kids Are Made Of and Somebody Come and Play. I even love the cooperation thing, which is the song that I watched all the time when I was a kid. And the bellhop scene, which is so awesome. At every number that was introduced at every episode, so does the bellhop. And oh yes, there are many letters and number segments throughout Sesame Street. Like the elusive number 1 Rum Tum Tum, and above it all, that's what I love, Imagine What You Like to Fly. And the Sesame Street News with Kermit the Frog. He's one of a kind. And the sliding puzzle, which is one of my all-time favorites. And the celebrity version of Put Down the Ducky. Sesame Street is one of the greatest children's shows of all time on PBS. And I really recommend it. Next up, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So far, I really love how Mr. Rogers sings in the opening and closing of the series. And you know, it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. Another show that I loved when I was a kid is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I remember when Mr. Rogers comes in singing It's a Beautiful Day in This Neighborhood, and he changed from business wear and puts on different kinds of sweaters every day when it was on the air. Oh, I love that song, It's a Beautiful Day in This Neighborhood. I learned it by heart as well. Anyway, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood consists of the segments that Mr. Rogers meets with people in different places around his neighborhood, like dentist's office, the bakery, the business building, museums, and so many other places. I also love the neighborhood trolley, which whisks us away to the neighborhood of make-believe, with puppets and human characters alike. Ah, yes, the neighborhood trolley. It was always there since the beginning. That whisk away to the neighborhood of make-believe. And I used to have that trolley when I was a mere 3 to 4 years old. I even love the neighborhood of make-believe characters like King Friday, Prince Tuesday, Daniel Tiger, X the Owl, the Platypus Family, Lady Elaine Fairchild, and among others. It is so delightful to entertain the young neighbors, the television neighbors, that is. And I also love how Mr. Rogers meets with his neighbors and business places as mentioned earlier. And at every episode, he always feeds the fish. He loves doing that, and the ending song is such a good feeling, which is surely awesome. I would recommend Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That show lives on forever. How about some Electric Company, the classic 70s show that was aired on PBS? Made by Children's Television Workshop is now Sesame Workshop. The Electric Company is a classic PBS show of the 70s. Unlike any other Sesame Workshop shows, the Electric Company employed sketch comedy and various other devices to provide an entertaining program to help elementary school children develop their grammar and reading skills. Since it was intended for children who had graduated from Sesame Workshop's flagship program, the humor was more mature than what was seen there. This is why the Electric Company defines the word classic. For the 2009 remake, it'll be in the next PBS Kids Memories set, which will be in the later season of Agent Mike's. Here's another show that you're gonna love, which was aired in the 70s. Since the popularity of Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, and the Electric Company. Zoom!
We're gonna zoom, 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 zoom. Come on and zoom, zoom. Everybody's doing it, everybody's doing it, everybody's having a ball, yeah.
In Zoom, there are a cast of kid performers. They ask children to turn off the TV and do it. They presented various activities such as games, plays, poems, recipes, jokes, songs, movies, science experiments, and informal chats on subjects such as hospitals, prejudice, etc., all suggested by viewer contributions. Like mail-in requests have become a pop culture reference for its musical exhortation. And of course, the Zoom is totally a classic show of the 70s. Here comes this next show, which teaches kids about something new every day. 3, 2, 1, contact!
3, 2, 1, contact!
This children's programming is an American science educational television show that was aired on PBS from the early to the late 1980s. And it teaches scientific principles and their applications. And it even shared scientific experiments in order to try to find out for themselves, from bubbles to animals and to other things related to science. I really love this show that includes classroom content, as well as extra content like nature and to other living things. And the best 80s show there is, called
3, 2, 1, contact!
Powerhouse, one of the underrated PBS shows, is focused on the adventures of a racially and ethnically diverse group of 5 teenagers and 1 adult from the inner city, based at a former boxing and sports gym headquarters that turned into a community center for kids and teens. And of course, it has celebrity organs and so many other things. And this is all about diversity and to share differences to the kids on TV. Powerhouse. It also aired on Nickelodeon, too. Next up, everyone's favorite reading show, Reading Rainbow. Ah, yes, the classic Reading Rainbow, which was aired in the early 1980s. I like the intro. It was a classic. Oh, how I love the opening, and I love how LeVar hosts. And there are so many books you can find at your bookstore or at your local library. Of course, in the late 1990s, the intro was fully updated. But it's still unforgettable. I really like LeVar Burton as the host of Reading Rainbow. It is totally awesome, which encourages children to read certain books and follow along, presented in this interactive storybook, just like it is. And of course, I really like those songs and even behind the scenes, and even take a look at some of the attractions and places. My favorite episode of Reading Rainbow is Barn Dance. That is also one of my favorite children's books that I read at elementary school years ago. Like I said, the story animations is sure fun to watch, just like in Beginner Book Video Series. And I like how those dancing parts of the Barn Dance episode were totally awesome. At every episode, children introduces to some other books that kids will encourage to read and to check it out at their local library. And even some kid will guide us what the book is all about so the children can read it. Yes, it is. Reading is fun. But you don't have to take my word for it.
Reading Rainbow is an awesome PBS Kids classic television show. You should check it out on Amazon and iTunes. I would highly recommend it. And guess what? It is aired on PBS years ago. That's right, Wonderworks Family Movie. Indeed, this was a classic masterpiece on PBS with family films that was aired every Sundays on PBS stations. And these movies are sure unforgettable, including The Chronicles of Narnia from BBC, and I even like City Boy. It is sure family films that will delight audiences with Wonderworks Family Movie, a classic.
Next up is the PBS Kids version of Captain Kangaroo.
Colorful, magical, wonderful, wow! The captain is coming, just look at him now. Super sensational, special and new. The captain is coming and you're gonna love it. Captain Kangaroo.
Yes, Captain Kangaroo. A lot of people who grew up with Captain Kangaroo back on CBS years ago. It has some Captain Kangaroo segments, and some educational segments, and even the real world ones. And on this PBS version, it also has Bill Cosby's picture pages, in which we all grew up with him. And at the end of every Captain Kangaroo episode on PBS, Captain Kangaroo encourages kids to do some things like jumping, sliding, cooking, catching, etc.
For those of you who watched PBS back in the 1980s, and you love to see those zoo animals in action, it's Zoobilee Zoo!
Everyone up, everyone in. Time for the fun to begin. Come along with us to Zoobilee Zoo. Zoobilee Zoo. Magic and wonder are waiting for you.
This mid-1980s classic show, where all of the kids grew up with, it centers around the main characters called Zoobles as they play together and encounter difficulties common to young children. The primary themes are cooperation, making friends, and creativity. I love those characters like Mayor Ben, Bravo Fox, What's That Kangaroo, Lookout Bear, Talkatoo Cockatoo, Van Gogh Lion, and the Bill Dill Beaver. So many characters, and lots of them in this classic show that the Zoobles break into song and dance at every episode. I remember this watching it on PBS when I was a kid, and some of you watch it on commercial television stations, the Learning Channel, and Hallmark Channel. Indeed, Zoobilee Zoo is totally a classic series of the 1980s that most of you grew up watching. I would highly recommend it for those of you who wants to watch it again and again.
And here are some of the underrated shows for you to check out. Sneakers.
And Songs for Fun with Dan Crow.
Songs for fun.
That's our pal Dan Crow.
All that really matters is you feel good when we're done. Songs for fun. Songs for fun. I went to visit my grandma and grandpa. They live on a big farm, and while I was there, I decided to go out walking in this big field, and I was walking along by myself, having a great time, enjoying nature, and all of a sudden, I got a very bad kissing attack, and my lips started to go like this. Even maybe try to kiss a turkey, but turkeys could get scared and you could miss.
Would you like to learn about math? This show is also underrated that ran from the late 80s to the early 1990s. Square One Television.
This classic Sesame Workshop show, which teaches children about the concepts of mathematics and so much more, such as counting, combinatorics, simple fractions, estimation, probability, and geometry. It even teaches children how to solve particular problems with sketches of game shows, comedy shows, polka, songs, and General Mathable, a parody of the soap opera General Hospital. And of course, Math Man is the parody of Pac-Man. He has to bite on one of the correct numbers, which is 2 more than a multiple of 5 and a multiple of 4 and so many other things to achieve well. If he makes one wrong move, he gets caught by a tornado character. MathNet is a parody of Dragnet, which teaches children how to solve particular problems. And if you want to learn math, the classic PBS show that you will find is none other than...
Next up is Long Ago and Far Away.
This is the unforgettable PBS show for 6 to 9-year-olds who wants to hear the stories of fairy tales with a different concept. Hosted by James Earl Jones. Long Ago and Far Away combines stop-motion animation such as claymation, which tells the stories of different concepts. Even live-action stories, which tells the 6 to 9-year-olds what the story is all about, with a twist, and sometimes fairy tales. And cell animation stories such as Noah's Ark. Boy, it doesn't matter which episode you watch for Long Ago and Far Away, it has different stories and even different fairy tale concepts. Long Ago and Far Away will delight 6 to 9-year-olds with different stories they will never forget.
Next up on the list is all about Thomas the Tank Engine and what's going on in the Indian Valley Railroad in one station, Shining Time Station.
This is one of the best PBS Kids shows that I watched when I was a kid, which takes us through the Indian Valley Railroad station called Shining Time Station. Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends is one of the best parts I love in this television series. It is made by Britt Alcroft of Thomas and Friends. This is so a classic episode that I love.
Yes, it is. This is one of my favorite shows that was aired on PBS.
Shining Time Station also has classic clips like Start Where You Are, and different live-action clips of different concepts to what a character in the station needs an idea or some sort. And of course, there are some animated ones, like the ones from public domain cartoons, and some stop-motion animated ones. I like characters like Mr. Conductor, Stacy Jones, Schemer and Schemy, Dan and Matt and Tanya, and even Becky and Mr. Two Feathers. They're sure delightful, as they love to have fun at Shining Time Station, and even J.B. King Esquire, the one who's in charge of Indian Valley Railroad. And I also love the Jukebox Band by Flexitoon Puppets. And it has different songs, from classic children's ones to the country ones, and mixed variety to give it a feel. Shining Time Station is sure to be a classic PBS show that you'll never forget, and those in 1995, some 1-hour specials appeared on PBS as well.
Hey, all you science lovers! Do you remember the show that was aired on PBS back in the 80s and up to the late 1990s? And it was made by Twin Cities Public Broadcasting? If so, then of course you'll love science as you learn it with Newton's Apple.
Another PBS treasured gem for the kids, teenagers, and adults. Since Newton's Apple aired in 1980s with science correspondent Ira Flato, 1-hour episodes to be exact, and later seasons it was reduced to 30 minutes with host David Heil and Peggy and some other characters too. Everything teaches us science concepts, science behind the scenes, and so much more of what science is truly all about. I really love watching this show and learning science at the same time. Newton's Apple is sure to be a classic PBS Kids show. I wish it would be aired on DVD in a complete series with Ira and David Heil.
Would you like to draw along in 3D with the greatest animator? That's right, it's Mark Kistler, the guy who stars in Mark Kistler's Imagination Station.
Hi, I'm Commander Mark. You always want to learn how to draw, right? Well, today I'm going to teach you how to draw. I'm going to teach you how to conquer that flat piece of paper and draw in 3D, three-dimensional drawing. Get your pencil, get your paper. I'll be right back.
But before we show you the classic intro to Mark Kistler's Imagination Station, Mark Kistler does his first show on PBS called The Secret City, which encourages children to draw 3D with him. With a pencil and a piece of paper, you will follow what Mark Kistler is doing, and you do it. To me, I love drawing 3D with him. I watched Mark Kistler's Imagination Station every day on PBS back in 1996 and 1997 on my local PBS station. Here is another show.
Got 60 miles viz underneath. Over.
All right. Fire, pencil power. Fire all imagination thrusters now. assistant control for that near miss.
The Draw Squad, which was Mark Kistler's second drawing show, which teaches the same drawing 3D concept to children. And it has the same drawing activities, well, almost the same, but differences from rocket ships, kangaroos, koala bears, and so many other creatures you will find, and other references to pop culture, and other things you'll find around the house to turn it from 2D to 3D. Boy, drawing 3D is so awesome. If anybody has clips of Mark Kistler's Imagination Station, can you let me know? And now, without any further ado, here's the intro to Mark Kistler's Imagination Station.
Sharpen your pencil, grab some paper, get ready, it's almost time. Mark will show you how to get on the paper what's in your mind. A rocket ship, a pair of shoes, a shooting star, and some kangaroos on the Imagination Station. On the Imagination Station.
Next up is everyone's favorite PBS Kids game show, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Oh yes, this is one of my all-time favorite shows on PBS. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Oh, how I love watching this PBS Kids game show, which helps people to learn geography and helps people to solve the mysteries and becoming detectives, to catch the crooks and to solve problems and to catch Carmen Sandiego at the end. This PBS show is a classic.
Oh, I really love this game show so much that it enriches kids to achieve well in geography and history. It's an educational mystery adventure geography game, which you may all know.
Oh, how I love Carmen's gang of villains like Robo-Crook, Eartha Brew, Patty Larceny, Vic the Slick, Double Trouble, Wonder Rat, Top Grunge, Contessa, Serenade, and Nimoy. Boy, I even love those segments like Nana Rap and so many other celebrity interviews and other songs, and even the plastic diver guy that I love. Imagine going underwater to meet the plastic diver guy. I watched this show at school, at home, and even loving the songs by Rockapella themselves. They even sang a theme song. I wish this show would continue on and on and on. Oh, I like the lightning round, and I like Where the Crook Is, and even a Acme Bugnet phone tap. And did you know that Carmen Sandiego was Acme headquarters in San Francisco? And I also love the chase segment to chase somebody. And then in the next round, the chief introduces where the city of the crime is by showing photos to catch the crook and to issue a warrant and to locate the loot into different possible locations. And whoever wins that round gets to go to the bonus round to catch Carmen Sandiego through 8 different countries and 8 different states and 8 different places. And if they catch all 8, they catch Carmen Sandiego and they won the trip to anywhere in North America. And if they didn't, they deserve some prizes and some great ones if they found some countries.
I like how the show was laid out well, and I like how the final round was challenging to capture Carmen Sandiego. And I also love the ending theme with music from Rockapella. One of the best.
And at the end of the show, they come on stage to dance and sing the theme song. This is one of the best PBS shows I love. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give this a 9.5. This PBS Kids show is totally a must-see.
Stay right there, folks, because we will be back with some more PBS Kids Memory shows.
Coming up next, it's Lamb Chop's Play Along and Barney and Friends that I will be talking about, not to mention Ghost Rider, which is an all-time favorite PBS shows since 1992, and I will also be talking about The Adventures of Dudley the Dragon, Kino Storytime, as well as The Puzzle Place, and everyone's favorite science guy, Bill Nye the Science Guy. Boy, there's so many PBS shows, like Get Real, as well as The Magic School Bus, and this classic, The Reppies, which is both PBS and Christian themed, as well as the Hug-a-Bug Club, and let's not forget about the Kratt brothers, Chris and Martin, in Kratt's Creatures that I will be talking about, and for the finale of PBS Kids Memories, I will be reviewing and talking about Adventures from the Book of Virtues. Zach and Annie, best of friends, heading to Plato's Peak to talk about different stories from the Book of Virtues and different tales, and to solve problems along the way. Everything will be in the Season 3 finale as Agent Mike's movie TV show Reviewers PBS Kids Memories comes right back.